Today, we're diving into the dramatic stories of the Dutch Revolt and the Tudor Rebellions, moments when courage, faith, and a bit of rebellion really shook up history. Are you ready? Back in the late 14 to 1600s, Europe was a mess. New religious ideas from the Reformation were clashing with old loyalties to kings and popes. Monarchs kept raising taxes to pay for wars, and everyday people pushed back when their way of life was threatened. Two big examples of this unrest: the Dutch Revolt against Spain and the Tudor Rebellions in England. What began in 1568 as a desperate uprising against Spanish power grew into an 80-year struggle for freedom, culminating in 1648 with the Treaty of Westphalia and the birth of a new Dutch nation. But what really set off this whole rebellion in the first place? Philip II, Spain's Catholic king, tried to root out Protestantism in the Netherlands through the Inquisition. Instead of obedience, he provoked outrage, especially among the Calvinists. On top of religious pressure, crushing Spanish taxes weighed heavily on Dutch merchants and farmers, turning daily life into a struggle. The Netherlands is a land of dikes and fields wrestled back from the sea. That struggle against nature gave the Dutch a fierce sense of independence. In 1566, tensions finally boiled over. Calvinist mobs erupted in what became known as the iconoclastic fury, smashing statues, tearing down images of saints, and stripping churches bare. To Spain's Catholic king, Philip II, this wasn't just vandalism, it was open defiance. His response would be swift and brutal. Catholic Spain struck back with fury. The Duke of Alba marched in with an army and unleashed the dreaded Council of Blood, determined to root out Protestant resistance. Thousands were executed. But the Dutch were clever. They used geography to their advantage and opened the dikes and deliberately flooded low-lying land, making it impossible for Spanish troops to advance. The rebellion also gained strength from the sea beggars, Dutch guerrilla fighters who targeted Spanish ships and raided ports, undermining Spain's control of the seas. This fight dragged on for decades. The Dutch got help from Protestant England, and later, France. Bit by bit, they wore Spain down. Finally, in 1648, the Treaty of Westphalia made the Dutch Republic officially independent. It was a huge deal, and the map of Europe was forever changed. So, why does this matter? Geography wasn't just land, it became a tool for fighting back. The revolt showed how religion and national pride could come together and create a whole new identity. In the end, the Dutch Republic turned into a rich, tolerant trading powerhouse. Like the Dutch Revolt and countless other uprisings across Europe, the Tudor Rebellions were not isolated. They were part of a larger age of resistance, when ordinary people challenged the power of kings, queens, and empires. Life in Tudor England wasn't exactly peaceful. There were all kinds of uprisings, some about religion, others about money or politics. No matter the reason, they all showed just how much tension was bubbling under the crown. Let's first check out the Pilgrimage of Grace, back in 1536. With the Act of Supremacy, Henry VIII had split from the Catholic Church and shut down the monasteries to grab their riches. Can you imagine the uproar? Up in northern England, thousands of Catholics hit the streets, marching under the banner of the 5 Wounds of Christ. They weren't going to let it slide. The rebels wanted the monasteries restored and the new taxes abolished. At first, Henry offered forgiveness, but his mercy was a trap. The rebel leaders were executed, and the monasteries remained closed forever. Fast forward 13 years to 1549, fields were empty, harvests failed, and regular folks struggled just to get by. Then came big economic changes. Nobles fenced off common land, shutting out the peasants and leaving them desperate for survival. That's when Robert Kett stepped up in Norfolk. He led tens of thousands of peasants, all demanding fair rents and an end to those enclosures. The government responded with force, crushing the uprising. Robert Kett was hanged, and hundreds of rebels were executed in the aftermath. At the time of Kett's rebellion, England was ruled by the boy king, Edward VI, just 11 years old. It fell to John Dudley, an adult power behind the throne, to march on Norfolk and crush the revolt. Yet even as the rebellion was squashed, it proved a larger truth that resistance, even when defeated, can echo louder than obedience. But the story didn't end there. 6 years after Kett's defeat, rebellion rose once more, this time in the form of Wyatt's rebellion. People panicked when Mary I, a Catholic queen, said she'd marry Philip of Spain. Was England about to fall back under Catholic rule and foreign control? Sir Thomas Wyatt led his rebels in a bold march on London, desperate to block Queen Mary's marriage to Philip of Spain. To them, it wasn't just a wedding, it was the fear that England would be dragged under foreign rule, its crown controlled by a Catholic king from overseas. The rebellion didn't work out, but it proved just how tangled up religion and politics really were. What did all this mean for the Tudors? The Tudor monarchs were tough on rebels, no doubt, but every uprising showed that royal power had its limits. When people's faith, land, or sense of identity was threatened, they were ready to risk it all. Let's break down the OPCVL analysis together. First up, the Dutch Revolt. Where did these sources come from? A lot of it was Dutch propaganda showing the rebels as heroes fighting for freedom. The main goal? To get everyone on board against Spanish rule. These were written right in the middle of a tough religious war. What's cool is they really highlight how a Dutch national identity started to form. But here's the catch. Spanish sources saw the rebels as outlaws and troublemakers. So if you were there, which side do you think you'd be on? Now, let's talk about the Tudor Rebellions. From royal decrees to rebel manifestos and eyewitness accounts, documents from the time reveal the battle of words as much as swords. Some writings urged people to rise, others defended the crown. But remember, every voice had its own spin. Rebels painted monarchs as tyrants, while rulers cast rebels as dangerous threats. Remember, OPCVL isn't just for history. The Tudor Rebellions show how sources carried bias, and the same is true today. Headlines, posts, and stories in your daily life are always framed with a purpose. Use OPCVL to question them, and you'll see the difference between fact and spin. All across Europe, people learned something important. Loyalty to the crown or church was never set in stone. When rulers pushed too hard demanding more taxes, land, or strict religious rules, ordinary folks stood up and said, enough. They pushed back, sometimes at great risk, but always with hope for a better future. The Dutch ended up building a brand new republic, while England's rebellions were put down, but both left their mark. In the end, these uprisings changed nations and proved that sometimes resistance speaks louder than obedience. It's a reminder for all of us. When faced with unfair rule, it's not just our right, but our responsibility to stand up for what's right. Thanks for joining me on this journey through history.
Thanks for watching Histoscript. If you learned something new today, or just love the hidden side of history, give this video a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story your textbook skipped. History isn't just dates, it's secrets, myths, and the strange truths behind it all. Stay curious. Stay tuned.